Hello. The year is over. How's the new year treating everybody? Me personally, I got super excited to film this video on my new camera that I got for Christmas, only to have every SD card I put in it tell me to try another one. So that's great. But still, 2025 is over. Man, what a great year. What a great year for movies. Okay, 2025 wasn't that great. It wasn't horrible, just significantly mediocre, I'd say. But something that isn't mediocre is all the amazing movies that came out this year. Superman was great, Marty Supreme, what else? Oh, of course, the Minecraft movie. How could I forget? But I think that the best movies released this year are from the horror genre. And to celebrate the end of 2025, and because I don't have any other video ideas right now, I'm going to be giving you all my top 5 horror movies of 2025. Now, this list is in no way objective. I'm not a movie critic. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, the lighting and the composition wasn't quite to my liking, so 5 out of 10. Fuck that. I'm not doing that. These are entirely ranked on my enjoyment of the movies, so if you disagree with me, okay. All right, starting it off with number 5, which is Weapons is the second feature-length horror film by Zach Cregger. An entire classroom of students goes missing. Nobody knows where they went. All the kids just got up in the middle of the night and ran away. And because of the lack of evidence, the town starts to blame the teacher for their disappearance. What makes it interesting, though, is it's told from multiple characters' perspectives. The teacher, the principal of the school she works at, an ex-boyfriend of hers, a parent of one of the missing students, a meth head, and the only kid in class who didn't disappear. This is pretty similar to Zach Cregger's work on Barbarian, which also told its story from multiple characters' perspectives. But I'd say that Cregger really does that way of storytelling a lot better in this movie. I really liked Barbarian, but the sudden jump from one character to the other is a little bit jarring. But after seeing this story from multiple perspectives, it's really satisfying to see them all converge at the same place at the end of the movie. It also makes rewatching the movie really rewarding. Like, maybe I'm just stupid, but I didn't even notice that this was James asking Justine for money. Each character's story is also written so well that you fully understand the actions of every character. Mostly. To Justine, teaching the kids in her class was what gave her purpose, so when that was taken away from her, of course it drove her crazy. You agree with why she is concerned for Alex, you just probably don't agree with how she goes about showing that concern. Lady, look, I know you mean well, you're being creepy, why are you outside of his house? But when we switch over to Archer and we see the impact that his son's disappearance has had on him, you get put in this rough spot where the movie kind of makes you question who you're actually rooting for. But by the end of the movie, are you really rooting for anybody but Alex? I like how the scary moments in this movie are like kind of goofy. Like the dumbass Naruto run that the kids do when they're under Gladys's spell gets me every time, but it still manages to be unnerving. Aunt Gladys is such an unsettling horror villain. I like how the magic is never really explained verbatim. We're just put right into the shoes of Alex and given the right amount of info to understand what is happening. Her magic does confuse me a little bit. Like, she was in the other two's dreams, but then she was in the woods. Like, was James just tweaking? And I know when Gladys is in her makeup, it's supposed to be like a super fake personality, but she can be a little bit over the top sometimes. But this is a horror movie, so we have to look at those moments that make you wince. Like someone's hand gets fucked up and you just sit there for 3 minutes just like... And this movie almost didn't have anything like that, but then she decided to use that potato peeler on her man's face. The main thing that I don't really like about the movie is that the ending moves at lightning speed. The kids swarm Gladys, Archer is like, my boy, I found you! And then the movie ends. The time between the kids killing Gladys and the credits rolling is literally 2 minutes. Like, it is Morbius levels of quick endings. But overall, another great movie from Zach Cregger, and I can't wait to see that Resident Evil movie that he's apparently making. 7 out of 10. I've seen all the Final Destination movies, and this is the best one. After just watching different groups of friends for 5 movies, having death go after an entire bloodline is such a cool concept for a Final Destination movie. You can tell that everybody involved in this movie is a huge fan of the franchise because it is such a huge labor of love to all the movies that came before, both with the nods to iconic moments from those movies, but also in the elaborate Rube Goldberg-style kills. The build-up to which is done insanely well. With some of the other movies, the build-up is kind of just like, oh no, the screws are loose. But in the opening of this movie, every moment feels like it could be the inciting incident that sets off the chain reaction. And when was the last time you were in a theater and everybody cheered for a child's death? That's the magic of movies right there. But I'd have to say that my favorite thing about Bloodlines is the characters, because you actually give a shit about them. With some of the Final Destination movies, you're kind of just waiting to see how everybody dies, but with how heartfelt and realistic every character is played in this movie, Instead, you're dreading to see how they die. Because this is still Final Destination. No matter how much you care for these characters, they're still gonna go out in some gruesome ways. Some of the sequences do have a bit too much of a CG look to them, and I have a burning hatred for CGI blood. But even in a series full of memorable kills, Bloodlines is still able to stand out with some of the most visceral accidents of the entire series. I'm not usually a fan of when every character in a horror movie dies, because it usually makes you leave with a feeling of, oh, why did I just spend 2 hours with these people if they all died in the end? I wanted a few of them to get out. But it works for Final Destination because of the idea that death eventually catches up to everybody. I also wrote down train transition. Yeah, that's that good shit. Real quick, you remember that hand thing that I said a few minutes ago? Do I need to explain myself? But the best thing about this movie is it has the greatest send-off that you could ever give to the legend that is Tony Todd. He made cameos as Bloodworth in the first, second, and fifth movies, so of course they brought him back for this one. But unfortunately, during the production of Bloodlines, he was quietly diagnosed with stomach cancer, so the producers let him write his own exit into the movie, both as a send-off for the character and himself.
We're acknowledging a passage of time, and I'm not immortal.
Tony Todd was a legend in the horror franchise, and I am so mad that he will never get to play Venom again. It's very fitting that his role in the franchise, all about not being able to escape death, ended up being his last. And it was this direct message to the fans that took this movie from a 7 to an 8 out of 10.
I intend to enjoy the time I have left, and I suggest that you do the same. Life is precious. Enjoy every single second. You never know when.
Bring Her Back is about a blonde girl who gets adopted by a Satanist.
That's a good summary.
This is the second horror movie by the Filippo brothers, who brought us Talk to Me in 2023. You may also know them from their YouTube channel, Raka Raka. Normally, when you think of YouTuber movie, you think of some of the most atrocious acts to ever be captured on film, but I love that that stigma has been changing as of recent.
It's strange to think that because someone's a YouTuber, they can't make a movie. Everyone needs to start somewhere.
Similar to Final Destination, Bring Her Back shows how different people can experience grief, but this movie focuses more on what that grief can turn us into. Some of us take that grief and use it to rise up and become a better version of ourselves. Either that, or you kidnap a little boy and perform a ritual to put a demon in him in an effort to bring back your dead daughter. No in between. Billy Barrett and Sarah Wong do such an amazing job as these siblings. Like, just the way that they comfort each other is so heartwarming. Their little grapefruit thing that they have is just a cute little thing that they have at the beginning of the movie, but then by the end, it's turned into a trigger word to make you bawl your eyes out instantly. Having a blind character might seem like an easy way to build suspense in a horror movie, but the majority of this movie's unease comes from Sally Hawkins' performance. This year has been such a great year for horror villains, and Laura is no exception. She's played in such an interesting way too. Like, you don't trust her right from the beginning, but over time, as you get to know her, you almost want to believe that she is this loving mother that she's pretending to be. But then she does some whack shit, and you're like, oh yeah, she's the bad guy. I cannot describe to you the dread I felt watching Andy beg this woman not to let his sister outside, only to immediately cut. But this movie's horrific moments really come from the gross body horror, which is amplified by the incredible sound design. Now, I probably can't show it, but the sound of Oliver just munching on that knife. Fuck, I can feel it. I like how there isn't really ever a scene of Demon Oliver chasing them. Whenever Andy discovers Oliver having a snack, he still has plenty of time to get away and even show Wendy instead of just having a cliche chase scene. I mean, Oliver kind of runs after Piper at the end of the movie, but she gets away from him pretty easily, and once she is gone, she is gone. You know those moments where you're like, what are you doing? You need to get up and run! She does. And they say the name of the movie in the movie. You know, you gotta give it points for that.
Bring her back.
My only complaint: Oliver should have eaten this bitch. After all of the atrocious things that she does throughout the movie, do not make her ending ambiguous. Also, Andy, this sweet boy, this man who is just trying to step up for his sister after their father dies, gets drowned in a puddle? Fuck you! 8 out of 10. Were you guys ever in English class and everybody was complaining that they didn't like the book that the teacher assigned, but you kept your mouth shut because you actually kind of liked the book? That was me with Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I was just going to do the intro of this next section sitting down, but I got comfortable and I don't want to stand back up, so I'm going to do the rest of the video like this. This movie has been a passion project for Guillermo del Toro for years, but that's honestly something you could say about all of his movies. I am still mad to this day that he never got the chance to make his Justice League Dark movie, because I do not think that there is another filmmaker alive that brings their movies to life like Guillermo del Toro does. From the sets to the costume design, this world is just so rich and vivid. In a day and age where you could very easily just use CGI to save time, I love that the industry is returning to old school tactics like using miniatures and practical effects. They moved the boat practically. They built and pushed this boat This movie feels so alive, so it's a shame that it was just banished to streaming. Netflix did make an effort to put it in some theaters though, so hopefully they plan to do that with more of their original movies in the future. Right, James Cameron? Oh, what the fuck, James Cameron? It blows my mind that some of the most iconic moments from the first movie weren't in Mary Shelley's book. But that's also the issue with adapting a well-known story. The audience already has a preconceived notion of how the story should be going in, so you need to be able to make changes to keep the story fresh. And every change that Del Toro makes to the source material does just that. For starters, the character of Harlander. In the novel, it's never explained how Victor Frankenstein has his laboratory. He just kind of has it. So having him be funded by a sick rich man who is just trying to buy himself more time is a fun twist on that. Plus, it's Christoph Waltz, and that man is a national treasure. Victor's father wasn't abusive to him in the book, but that change makes you understand why Frankenstein treats the creature the way he does.
Don't touch me!
Don't ever touch me.
But the best change that Del Toro makes is the inclusion of William Frankenstein, who has a much more prominent role compared to the book. There's this line that William says that has been stuck in my head ever since I saw this movie.
I fear you, Victor. I always have. Every ounce of madness and destruction. You are the monster.
Now, I don't know if this is what Del Toro intended, but as annoying nerds like me like to remind people, Frankenstein is not the monster. He's Victor. So with that in mind, does this line not feel like a play on how over time people have given his name to the creature? How, despite doing the impossible, Victor will only be known as his biggest mistake. Frankenstein is the monster. What the fuck? Look, I will never forgive him for robbing us of the chance to see Andrew Garfield as Frankenstein's creation, but Jacob Elordi does do an amazing creature performance. And I think that his overwhelming size and stature really helped bring the creature to life. You see what I did there? Also, it's really funny to me that the large murderous monster is the most lovable character that he's ever played. Probably because I just lied. This version isn't a murderous monster. That's just what you would assume based on the character's history. But in the book, he learns to speak and reads poetry. He's not a big ogre, he's more like a scared dog, only attacking on instinct. This has got to be the best iteration of Frankenstein's monster. He takes a stick of dynamite out of Victor's hand, makes him light it, and then just stands there like... My only real complaint with the movie is that we never got to see Victor make the creature his bride. When the cast for the movie was announced, I saw that Maya Goth was going to be a part of it. I thought we were going to see her turn into the bride of Frankenstein, and we did not. And I am sad. Plus, if Victor doesn't make the bride, it kind of makes what the creature says to him right here kind of pointless. That's it, though. Everything else about this movie is fucking great. 9 out of 10. But before we get to the best of the year, I have a few on... There were a lot of good movies this year, okay? These are just ones that I don't have a lot to say about. I'm going to try to make this quick. Black Phone 2. One of the rare horror sequels that I can say that I prefer to the first one. Madeleine McGraw and Mason Thames have done nothing but improve since that first movie, and I love that the grabber is just Freddy Krueger now because we are not getting another Elm Street movie anytime soon. 8 out of 10. Predator Badlands. Big surprise, the guy who made 2 great Predator movies made another great Predator movie. I love that we follow a Yautja for the first time in this series, and with some of the nods to the Alien franchise, hopefully we can get a good Alien vs. Predator movie, because these two kind of suck. 9 out of 10. Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I'm just kidding. This movie was terrible. Not even from a game accuracy standpoint. Because, like, do you genuinely want an entire movie that is just this? I like that the people behind these movies aren't treating the games as, like, a holy text that they have to follow. I'm just mad that they got Skeet Ulrich and Matthew Lillard to be Henry, Emily, and William Afton and did nothing with it. Fuck you. 2 out of 10. FNAF 2 out of 10. Good boy. Dog. 10 out of 10. Jurassic World Rebirth. I know that some people say that the Jurassic Park movies aren't really horror movies, but I think that this movie really embraced those horror elements from the first Jurassic Park, and it was a significant improvement from the last Jurassic movie, which I know isn't saying much, but still. Now, this movie, this movie isn't good. Like, barely any people die. It's kind of just like a different flavor of Jurassic Park 3, but I don't care. If you show me dinosaurs doing cool shit, my 8 brain just starts smashing rocks together, so I still had fun. 5 out of 10. Begonia. This is one of those movies that you watch and you're like, how the fuck did somebody come up with this? But if you want a movie with some of the best character performances of the year, with one of the most shocking endings to a film that I have ever seen, then check this one out. Seriously, if you haven't had the ending for this movie spoiled for you and you're gonna watch any movie that I talk about, go watch this one. 9 out of 10. Death of a Unicorn. Why haven't I seen anyone talk about this movie? It's really good. Yes, it's a horror movie about unicorns, but even with something as absurd as that, the movie is able to take itself seriously and have a heart to it. And it does the whole making a thing made for kids scary thing a lot better than any of the parody movies that have been coming out recently. Genuinely, why have I seen nobody talk about this movie? I loved it. 8 out of 10. I know for a fact that while I'm editing this video, I'm gonna be like, oh, why didn't I say blah, 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 blah. So if I think of any other movies, I'm just gonna put them right here. Cool. But now it's time. The moment you've all been waiting for. The best horror movie of the year is... You probably already guessed it by now. It's Sinners is Ryan Coogler's 5th feature film, after starting his career with a fucking bang by spearheading some giant movies. But after Black Panther 2, he didn't want to be known just for making movies with dedicated IPs, so he decided to make a comedy, drama, thriller, vampire, horror musical. And it might be his best movie yet. This movie blew away every expectation I had for it. The only thing I really knew going into this movie was Michael B. Jordan and vampires. That's it. I didn't know that I was about to watch one of the most beautiful tributes to blues music that I have ever seen. This movie is a bit of a slow burn, and I know that those words can kind of turn some people off, but this is the good kind of slow burn. The movie spends 40 minutes introducing and just getting to know all of the characters, and none of the time feels wasted. It really lets you fall in love with these people, and thanks to the amazing cast, that is really easy to do. Michael B. Jordan is one of those actors that are like so famous that whenever you watch something with them in it, it's kind of hard to see them as their character, but I do not have that issue with this movie. They kind of hold your hand with the differences between the twins at the beginning of the movie. They're like, okay, Stack is red and Smoke is blue. I get it. But then there's this scene that cuts back and forth between the two having separate conversations, and there's no hat to tell you which is which. But that doesn't matter. There's never a moment where you're questioning which brother you're watching. But this story is just as much about Sammy as it is the Smokestack twins, and Miles Caton does an amazing job. He's much more subtle with his acting than Michael B. Jordan is, but the little choices that he does make really shows you how much this kid loves what he does. I could go on and on about the cast for this movie because they literally become their characters. And this is nowhere more relevant than in this scene with Sammy, Stack, and Slim. After telling a painful story to remember, Slim starts to hum, so Stack tells Sammy to join in with his guitar. But now he is unsure of himself and his ability to play because of Slim's story, so he doesn't play along. Because he realizes that he might not know as much about blues as he thought he did. Delroy Lindo, the actor who plays Slim, says that this moment where he starts humming wasn't in the script. It's just what he felt the character would do in the moment. And so Michael B. Jordan went along with it, telling Miles Caton to join in on his guitar. But because Miles Caton was an inexperienced actor, he didn't really know what to do. Just like how Sammy was unsure of what to play after hearing Slim's story. Do you see what I'm saying? But after you get settled in with everybody and we finally get to the juke joint and we see the community that they've created, you remember that this is a horror movie. And everyone you just fell in love with is probably gonna die. This is a vampire movie, in case you forgot. In fact, one of Ryan Coogler's inspirations was the Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino movie From Dusk Till Dawn, which also followed a pair of criminal brothers in a nightclub with vampires. And because of that, I've seen some people call Sinners a worse version of From Dusk Till Dawn, and no, just because these two movies have a few similar setups does not make one a worse version of the other. The worst version of From Dusk Till Dawn is From Dusk Till Dawn. I'm just kidding. I like the movie. Please don't put a bomb in my mailbox. The practical effects are cool. It's definitely a Quentin Tarantino movie. And I mean that in a derogatory way. But I only bring up From Dusk Till Dawn because I find the different ways that these movies go about portraying their vampires very interesting. One just being hungry monsters bent on eating flesh, and the other being much more human. Vampires are one of those classic horror monsters that come with a certain set of rules, and the movie makes sure that you know those rules right from the beginning. After this amazingly illustrated opening sequence that tells us that music can bring people together, but it can also attract evil. It then cuts to a boy with a broken guitar. He opens the doors to this church, but he doesn't walk in. It's only after the person behind the altar invites him in that he does. That, combined with the flashes of Remick and the gnarly scar on Sam's face, it's entirely possible that this kid is a vampire. And then it just cuts to a day later. So for the entire movie, you are unsure of whether or not this kid is a vampire or not, whether or not he actually makes it out. It's very well done. Now, like I said, whether you're a Twilight girl or a Lost boy, everyone has a basic understanding of how to deal with a vampire. So it's how you play around with that formula that's going to make it special. The vampires and sinners all have the normal weaknesses, but I really like the idea to have them all connected through a hive mind. It really makes the immortality aspect a lot more intimidating because of all the knowledge that Remick must have with his centuries of being alive. I also like how they just fly instead of turning into bats, which would obviously take away a lot of the horror of this movie. This shot of Remick starting to fly that immediately cuts to Perline was so shocking when I first saw it. It was one of those moments in the theater where everybody just collectively went, ah! I love that this movie was specifically made with the theater experience in mind. The movie was shot on a combination of Ultra Panavision and IMAX film, giving it multiple aspect ratios. Now, normally, a movie having constantly changing aspect ratios would be a little bit jarring. But because this movie was meant to be seen on a giant IMAX screen, the changes are more used for transition shots to really bring the audience on the journey that the characters are taking. It's also used very effectively for the more cinematic moments of the movie, especially in the I Lied to You sequence. How have I gotten this far without talking about the music? I'm going to talk more about I Lied to You in a minute, but oh my god, I love Will You Go, Lassie Go so goddamn much. If you're ever having one of those days where you don't even know what you're feeling, you just feel off, and you need some mellow shit to listen to, just go ahead and pull up this album, have a drink, have several drinks, and listen to Will You Go, Lassie Go.
All around the blooming heather, will you go, Lassie, go?
But back to I Lied to You. I know people keep making the absolute cinema joke all the time, but this sequence is fucking cinema. The aspect ratio stretches out and the music swells and then goes into this hard-ass beat drop as musicians from throughout history start to appear, like rock stars, DJs, and ballerinas, both showing the character's heritage through music, but also showing all of the different types of music that have spawned from blues. Because almost every genre of music is inspired by blues music in some way. Did you not fucking pay attention to Phineas and Ferb? But it is not a perfect film. My biggest issue with it is the first 3 people to die after the vampires come in are barely even noticeable in the final cut. I'm sure some people didn't even realize they were there. I didn't until someone pointed it out to me. I understand that they were just cannon fodder, but I should at least know who's dying, right? Also, I don't care if they're brothers. How did Smoke convince Stack, the man connected to the vampire hive mind, to leave Sammy alone for his entire life? How did Smoke get away from Stack anyway? Smoke just kind of popping up behind Remick pissed me off. But honestly, I don't really care about any of that, because the ending of this movie gets me every single time.
No doubt about it. Last time I see my brother, Lou. Last time I seen the sun.
Fuck, I love this movie. 9 out of 10. But that's it. That's my list of movies. I know I was making jokes at the beginning, but I do hope that 2025 was good to y'all. If there's a movie that I didn't talk about that you saw, it's probably because I didn't see it, so go ahead and leave your own top 5 list down in the comments. But that's all from me. Happy New Year, everybody. Goodbye.